Oh, hi. Welcome back.
Hello! Welcome back. Happy New Year and 2023. Welcome back to Lawfully Chaotic, Season 2, Episode 1. As with me always, is Sharon Smith, the fabulous Barry Bott, and Jason Baldrick, the storyteller of TTRPG Academy. Sharon, I love your dancing to the theme music behind the scenes there.
I got it.
I kind of want to film that, and that's our intro. Anyway, hope everybody had a fantastic and safe and healthy holiday season. We are really glad to be back, and thank you for joining us. Any how are you guys doing? How was your holiday? You got anything to say?
I mean, I'm happy that we're starting the new year off on the right foot with this show. I mean, I'm so pumped for what's to come this year. I am ready. And plus, I miss you all, and I miss everyone in chat. So good to see everyone.
I know. I kind of did. I actually did too. I found myself missing you both.
Chaotic blues
and chat. Missed 3 miles, missing D&D for the last couple of weeks. I'm rabid. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Dorito. What are we talking about tonight? I think we're just going to kind of get back into the swing of things and talk with chat and talk a little about the new D&D licensing news. But do you guys have any announcements or anything?
I
mean, I do have two more games that'll start streaming this weekend on Sunday.
Nice. Awesome.
So that'll be happening. I'm working on another Tuesday night game live in the studio. Studio 2.0 proceeds. Some of the work's already been done. So that's some of it. Yeah, we're working on panel work. I have been absolutely obsessed with my 3D printer. I have been printing like mad. I probably have already printed the value of the printer and the value of the filament in the number of terrain pieces and everything. It's like,
oh, nice.
It's just insane.
You gotta share some of those, dude.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, there is one I can share.
This guy.
Yeah, go get one. Yeah, what kind of printer did you get?
Well, I got a FlashForge printer. I'm not an engineer, so I didn't want to have one of those big kit bashes. I went with a printer that I felt like was gonna be easy to manage and easy to deal with. So this is my 4th actual print, and it's a maw creature, but there's corresponding arms.
And my god, that's awesome!
It's designed so you can sit it flat on a terrain piece.
Yeah.
And it printed out the 4 arms, and then one of my players painted it for me.
That's
and
awesome.
Then I did trees and dungeons and rocks and ruins, and I've got all this. I mean, Dorito, I've got I want to say 8 gig of STL files already, full of just like amazing work that I've got from Etsy. My engineering brain has been put to the test. The printer I have isn't very good for miniatures, like very hyper detailed work.
The filament printers really aren't, but for terrain they're fantastic.
Yeah. So Dorito, you probably have like a terabyte of STL files compared to what I have.
Imagine.
I think my next step is to use the FlashForge printer for printing terrain, and then get a photo resin printer for miniatures. But I've just
why don't you print yourself a photo resin printer with the FlashForge?
I've been watching this. There's a guy on YouTube who does exactly that. He prints printers, is what he does as his gig.
Robots creating robots.
It's the Ouroboros of printing.
And I've had a lot of fun. I don't know if either of you have played around with this yet, or if anyone in chat has played around with this. And I know we're going to get like heavy into a lot of different things today. But has anybody played around with the new chat bot over the holidays?
No.
So they have this new thing called the chat openai.com. It is changing my
travesty.
life.
It is a affront to humanity. It's going to
Yeah,
put us all out of business.
Lord.
I experimented with, hey, chatbot, do you want to write a Dungeons and Dragons adventure with me today? And it responded, certainly. Here's some topics I think you might enjoy. And then it listed all the topics. And I said, hey, chatbot, can you sort those into acts? Sure. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4. And I said, hey, chatbot, can the NPC's name be Mira? And she's a druid, and she's currently trying to find her home. And then I said, that's a great idea. Here's a plot twist that go into Act 1 regarding this NPC. And then it gave me like 25 lines of content that is beautifully written out. Like, it is phonically perfect. It is... So
thank you, everybody, for joining us on Lawfully Chaotic. We will now be shutting the show down, and our computers will just play D&D with each other.
So I got turned on. I've been playing with it for a while, but it wasn't very good at first. But they've done some work on it. Yeah, Chat GPT. That's exactly it, Twisted.
Yep. $29 billion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's interesting, the most interesting thing about this AI bot that I feel like makes it the most interesting one to use, it is not linked to the internet. It doesn't pull in its information.
It's a Terminator.
It doesn't pull in from the internet.
Yeah.
It's a self-contained library that's updated to the year 2022, and it learns from itself, and it learns from those of us that interact with it, but it is not connected to anybody else's content on the internet.
Yeah.
So I really freaked myself out the other day because I'm doing a lot of deck writing for my contract gig. I said, hey, how would you write an agile backlog refinement training session? And the chatbot wrote one for me. And it was good. And then I took it to another level. And I said, if I was using an API GET method for a data set, what would be the best code to write for that? And it wrote the code for me.
Huh.
See, we may actually have to have a show about this because there are far-reaching implications, especially with what we all do.
Yeah. It led me down the rabbit hole of I took the chatbot, I took Sound.io, I took Midjourney, and I found myself writing an entire event in AI where it built everything, right? It built the narrative, it built the images, it applied the sound, it did everything, and you could easily build like 10, 15, 20, 30-minute long.
Yeah, sure. But then the argument comes in, where's the creativity and what the heck does anybody need us for anymore? Well, or anybody who creates for that matter. Yeah, as somebody who... Go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, no, because you're signing over all the creativity to the AI. Like, there really isn't a human touch to it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jason, for somebody who champions the creator space so much, you should be aghast at this.
Why? I can assume that a few hundred years ago, all the basket weavers were lamenting manufacturing, or rug loomers. I think it's different. Not really. It just took longer.
No, manufacturing is I don't. Okay, we need to have another show just based on that. So we definitely have a topic.
For me, my problem is I'm a technophile.
Yes.
I don't really care. I'm an Oppenheimer. I love tech so much. I always think about it right here. I don't think about it down there.
Exactly. And that is why you will destroy the world of creativity.
Well, I mean, we all need Terminators in the backseat of our cars. I'm okay with that.
Exactly.
Doesn't bother me.
Kill all humans.
But I'll tell you the most important thing that most people don't have when it comes to creativity. They don't have motivation. And if you don't have the motivation to learn how to use these things, and you don't have the motivation to still be somewhat creative, most people are going to play with this for a few days and then walk away from it. They're not going to do much with it.
Well, we'll see. It remains to be seen.
These things are going to have much more like amazing automated like automation applications with setting up an automated AutoCAD shop where you have 100 printers out there in your shop.
Yeah.
And you've automated the AI systems to create things that make sense for a purpose that can be focused on. Mm-hmm. The amount of effort it still takes for us to interact with them and find that value is still pretty labor intensive.
Yeah, see, Torch, that's a good point.
Yeah, and that's what, and I know for
it can be a useful tool. It can be a useful tool, but like most things that we create as human beings, it's going to be abused till fucking high heaven, and it's going to be a huge, I don't want to say ethical, but for lack of a better word, a huge ethical issue at some point, because it's going to get to the point where it's like, well, why do we need anybody to create anything anymore?
Yeah.
I think capitalism will. I guess capitalism is a poor choice of words. I think the democratization of free markets always brings ethics to the forefront, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and I think it does force us to have good conversations about it too, because this is also bringing back to the forefront a lot of things that were never solved. Yeah. Copyright infringement by another country who is an autocracy, and you can't enforce your laws amongst an autocracy, right? So when you think about the amount of infringement that's going on in the webs and the lack of enforcement, Yeah, I know about that comic book. So I mean,
we all saw that episode of Star Trek where they were trying to prove that Data was an actual sentient being.
I remember.
That's where we're going to fucking end up. Okay, let's move on to something that has to do more with D&D. But I do think that we should talk about this in depth for a whole episode.
Then led me down the rabbit hole of the new licensing stuff. So I was like working with the new chatbot. I was working with writing new D&D content. I was building, creating, playing around with my printer. And then to that point, boom, I was in the license realm watching all this new stuff come up with the new licensing stuff. I thought was very interesting.
Yep. Yeah. So I have only, I don't know. Now, obviously, somebody got a hold of the full 9,000 word document. I have only read through the Gizmodo article and the IO9 article. And it seems like some people are up in arms about this.
Did you get a chance to watch that link I put up there for Bob World Builder?
I did not yet.
It was really concisely done in the sense that he was under the opinion that the leak was a falsehood, that's not true. There isn't actually a leak out there. It doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. The leak was the fact that NDAs were sent out to the heavy hitters. So like Barrington Press, Cold Ball Press, RPG Guild. The leak was, here's a new NDA before we could talk to you about what we're going to do in 2024. Mm. So 2023 has been officially declared the last year of 5e. One D&D rolls out in spring of 2024.
Ah, okay. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
So now, but again,
WotC tweeted all this recently within the last couple days. They tweeted a stack of summation to kind of help calm people's nerves as it related to the smaller creative space.
Okay.
And I think in the smaller creative space, unlike this interview process that we're doing, there are some concerns around video game creation, PC game creation, as well as video film style creation. And to a certain degree, there's a little bit of fuzziness around live play, the live play of D&D. However, the SRD and the OGL for the new creator space finally codifies all that stuff that we've been looking for, Brian, an absolute understanding of what we're allowed to do from a licensing perspective.
Well, yes and no. And yeah, the old stuff was very... I don't want to get into the old stuff because it sucked. All right. It's fucking 20 years out of date.
Yeah, it was just updated.
So from what I understand so far, there are the basic gist of it is that there are tiers. If you make up to $50,000, you do not need to report what you are no, get into it. No. You don't need to report to WotC your revenue. Okay, you have to get everything not approved, but you have to basically register everything with them. All right, that is of sale. If you make
I've heard something totally different than that. That's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to hear what you've heard also, because this is all hearsay, because it's all third party.
Well, that's where my concern is, because 2 days ago, WotC tweeted all the detail. And so when I watched Bob the World Builder, he had all the WotC content tweets broken down into their hierarchy. And he by far has made the most concise review of what WotC is saying.
Well, send me a link to that, because I did not read that. But my understanding is 50K or less, you don't need to report your revenue to them. Between 50K and 750,000, you need to report it, but you don't pay royalties. Anything above 750, you need to start paying royalties on. Now, to me, if that is, if that's accurate, to me, that actually sounds way more than fair.
I agree.
Okay, because small creators are not getting dinged at all. In fact, to your point, it now makes it more accessible for small creators to utilize that IP. And I'm sorry, but if you're making $750,000 a year off of somebody else's IP, I mean, I would expect to pay royalties. And they're not even asking for full royalties; they're asking for above 750K.
Right.
So again, assuming that's all accurate, I think that's actually surprisingly fair coming from a large corporation.
That hierarchy of description you just gave is fairly accurate based on the WotC.
Okay. The one thing that sounded the most, let me just say one more thing. The one thing Sharon's already like fucking idiot. The one thing that sounded the most dubious to me is that it said that anything that you create with their IP, they automatically get a reciprocal license on and can use it however they want.
Okay, that's a falsehood. I'll tell you right out, that's not true.
Well, okay. And again,
so what they're doing is the SRD is the content that they base what you're allowed to use. So there's an SRD that you can utilize.
All right. And for those who don't know, what is SRD again? What does it stand for?
I think it's like a standard reference document.
Okay.
Which basically is like, it's even on the D&D Beyond website. There's an SRD download that you can get on D&D Beyond. If you use anything in the SRD, you publish with the single page attestation document called the OGL or whatever it's called, right? The Open Gaming License.
Yeah, OGL 1.1.
And if you, depending on where you are in the hierarchy, you put a badge on your cover.
Correct.
That's it. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you have to do. Not a thing.
Which again, that sounds more than fair to me. You know,
all you have to do. You have to register with anyone or anything.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is prevent something like Pathfinder from happening again. So.
Right.
Well,
folks, what she said is
because it's that line that they called out.
That is the flame wars that are going on right now. You brought it. Yeah, that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, the line that people have been pointing out, it specifically says blah 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 to avoid direct competition with our products. So like Pathfinder, I mean that for all intents and purposes, that's a direct competitor, right? You've created based on D&D, that's a different game.
Well, so to both what Barrybot said and what Dorito's saying is that it is a TTRPG RPG reference material that they're codifying for 2024, right? So basically what they're saying is not only can you still use all the 5e and previous IP as it's stated in the updated SRD, but essentially whatever is in that SRD you're free to use, as long as that OGL statement of attestation that you put in your publication. There's mixed outcomes on the badge, but the badge is nothing new, right? RPG Guild uses the badge system as part of their process, so that's nothing new as far as I'm concerned. You could go back to the 80s, and the Gary Gygax TSR used to use badging as well.
I would feel like they would be doing something like that.
That's first I heard of it.
So I think the reason why they have to start exploring things, that's a good point, Dorito. Darrington Press is their publication. And I hate myself right now. I can't think of the guy's name, but they recently onboarded. He's a big time gamer and TTRPG guy. And it's like Newman or Norman or Norman something. And
Ivan Van Norman.
Ivan Van Norman. Thank you.
Yeah, I met him. I met him.
When people have three names, it drives me nuts. Anyways, Ivan Van Norman is in charge of the Darrington Press portion of Critical Role.
Yeah, he had a publishing company because I met him a few years ago at a Critical Role art opening, and I talked to him for a while. He had a publishing company before that Critical Role used to publish a couple of their compendium books. So that's interesting that they brought him on full time. By the way, I got a new. I don't know if I told you, but I got a call from Critical Role to do some more design work for him.
Yay!
Yeah. It's internal stuff, but still awesome. So,
that's still awesome.
I hadn't heard that they brought. I know that they've brought
Ivan in spring of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, I think if you're Cobalt Press, I think if you're RPG Guild, I think if you're these heavy hitters, these third-person heavy content creators, that's exactly what you're going to get out. That's exactly the groups that are most concerned right now.
Well, supposedly they said that. Thanks, 3 Miles. Supposedly they said that this is really only going to affect negatively like 20 entities. 20 people out there are
in that category. Yeah.
In that category.
Are in that category.
So again, I mean, it's easy for me to say because I'm not Kobold Press or Darrington Press or something like that. But again, if you're making that much money off of piggybacking off of somebody's IP, you should expect to pay some kind of licensing.
But to Barry's point earlier about it being turned into Pathfinder, it's like, where do we say a D20 is copyrighted versus the color yellow versus the word orc?
Yeah.
Like where, it's like IP should always have some kind of limitation, right? It's like, it's kind of like every single year, my favorite thing to do is to go out to the public domains to see what comes out each year, because copyrights expire. So things that were being created 99 years or 50 years, are expiring. So when you go into the public domain, suddenly there's free art, there's free music, there's free content out there that may not be specific to our IP, but we're able to use it to influence what we want to create. So it always brings up an interesting question. And to their earlier point about they were trying to protect NFTs, they were trying to protect their digital space. They're claiming, for the most part, WotC is doing this because they want to get ahead of the mistake that was made with the right.
I tried copywriting the Bill of Rights. They rejected it. USPTO said no.
The D20 was made like thousands of years ago. I don't think they could copyright that. So,
I mean,
it's thousands of years ago.
Yeah. I'm sure in ancient Greece they had already figured out the
But
dodecahedron and
to me, I'm a side gig guy, right? So I have my core contract work I do in my tech space, and then I have my pay-to-play D&D games that I run. And now I actually feel okay about writing content, because even if my side gig content only generates between 5 and 15,000 a year, it allows me to exercise my creativity, and not worry about the licensing problem anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this basically, as far as we are concerned, this basically quashes all those concerns that we had about publishing content. So I don't know. You guys know that I'm the big curmudgeon and the naysayer, but so far I actually feel pretty good about this. I'm actually quite surprised at those tiers that they set up.
And I will say this much: I'd love to get Barry's perspective on this, because she's our big movie buff. I'm also wondering if they recognize that maybe the D&D movie's not going to be so good because of all the corporate hacks that were involved. And now with the new licensing agreement, it kind of limits what people are allowed to do with film and video.
I still have zero expectations for that piece of shit.
What do you think, Bear?
I have hope for it. I'm not going to set any expectation for it. It could either go one way or the other for the movie. So I still think it's great that they're making a D&D movie. So,
well, and I my creative juices are flowing now, because now I can take NPCs and build a book of NPCs and know that it's okay to publish it as a PDF, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got in my OneNote, I've probably got 2,000 pages of work. I now feel confident enough to take a completed game that ran for 2 years and convert it into a series of short stories or publications. Because I now know, not only do I know what's coming in 2024, but I know that even the 5e SRD online gaming license, they're acting the same way. And all of that was based on the horrible lessons they learned with 4th edition. And 4th edition, because they didn't pay attention to it, created their number one competitor for a while, which was Pathfinder.
Yeah.
What do you
Holy
think?
shit! You know what?
Go ahead, Barry.
No, Barry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What do you think will happen to Drive-Thru RPG with this?
I think they're going to have to freaking pay royalties. I think they're going to have to also reevaluate their relationships with creators, because now creators who are probably never going to be at a level of concern against the license are going to go, well, shit, I don't need Drive-Thru anymore. I now understand exactly what I can do as a small creator. I'm just going to go somewhere else. So their revenue stream could take a dip, and they're going to have to pay royalties.
Maybe they'll go to RPG and Company to publish stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only thing I need now to be successful at this is a template. Like I'm not a template guy. I could do a bunch of writing. Like I could do a bunch of writing, but I'm not a great organizer unless it's like a professional deck or professional acumen kind of presentation. So for me, I see all these creators that just do these amazing 20-page booklets. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to order Dungeon in a Crate or Dungeon in a Box, or all those cool little kits that you can get, that people build. They put a couple minis in there, a book, and a map, and stuff like that. Like when I sit down to write or to convert all of my writing notes into a formulaic template, that's the one thing I don't do very well.
Yeah. I'm excited for this. I'm starting off this year with a positive outlook. I'm excited.
So Brian conveniently ignored my trigger. Me and Brian have been talking about that template for an entire year because of licensing issues. Now the licensing issue is solved, and here Brian is doing classic Brian avoidance. No, I'm not going to talk about that again. We talked about it 100 times. Welcome to Jazz 101.fm. Good to see all of you.
You need a pop filter on the microphone if you're going to eat it like that.
Welcome to Lawfully Chaotic Broadcasting Network.
No, in fact, that's what I'm saying, Jace. I'm excited about this, and we can continue those conversations and actually start, acting upon it instead of, it's this nebulous thing. Like, how do we get around this?
Well, Dorito, I'm not even sure DM's Guild is relevant anymore if you're a small creator.
Oh.
Honestly, I mean, I'm wondering if with the advent of social media, social spaces, the ability to create your own levels of awareness about your small creative space, if you go with DM's Guild, even after all the changes and all the updates, you're still paying a pretty 30%.
Well, not only that, but they own your IP then, which is the biggest BS.
Yeah,
I think to me, I would imagine this replaces DM's Guild, doesn't it?
I mean, I think it depends on the creator's perspective. DM's Guild does have a large network, right? So DM's Guild is a place that some of us go to for PDFs, and they do have hundreds of thousands of networked clients that come and shop there. So they do have that weight still going with them where they could say, wait, don't leave us just because you're a small creator. Don't forget, we got like over 1 million people that use our storefront.
Well, right? That's all well and good. But again, as a creator, there's no way I would give up my IP rights to what I create. It's just not worth it. I'd rather not sell anything. That's bullshit.
Right.
No, I agree. And I think that's going to be the sea change with this updated relationship of the SRD and the online, and the open gaming license. I think it's really going to allow a lot of small creators to go, okay, if I just follow these simple rules, I can make a little side gig money. I can make a few thousand or more, But if you're a high end creator that wants to jump into the deep end, I don't think DM's Guild is owned by WotC. DM's Guild,
I don't think it is.
No, I think they actually have to pay for the licensing. They have a lease license relationship with them.
Yeah.
Where they have a lot of licensing built into their system. and DM's Guild by itself is like representative of like 7 different outlets. Like if you go to DM's Guild and you look at everything they represent, they've got like 7 categories of representation, like sci-fi and like all these different, platforms that you can pull content in from or try to sell content on. So I just think people now have to like kind of organize their thoughts.
This is so here. Take a look at this.
You can always tell when Brian goes on the internet, his rig slows down.
So WotC also gets the right to use any content that the licensees create, whether commercial or non-commercial. Although this is couched in language to protect Wizards products from infringing on creators' copyright, the document states that for any content created under OGL, regardless of blah, 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 non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose.
Right.
So that's what I was talking about when I said that's the dubious part. If that is true, then
that's legal. That's legalese, right? That's legalese speaks.
Oh yeah, it's legalese, but it's so fucking open-ended that
that's legalese. I mean, how many lawyers do you know speak that way, right?
I get it.
What they're basically saying is
that one line buried in there can be a way for them to basically get free content creation perpetually.
Yeah, it sounds like wiggle room.
Well, yeah,
I think it sounds like the fucking Macarena.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a classic Rick and Morty line, right? They're planning for failure, which is still bad planning, right? So what they're planning on is in case this completely falls apart and fails and the content-rich environment becomes just a series of minefields, well, we got this little out clause that says, okay, you know what? Scrap what we did. We're going to do something else.
Right. Well, I get that. But to say an out clause is one thing, or to say we can change the agreement, or we could slap you with a cease and desist is one thing. But for them to say we own all of the creator's IP and can use it however we want.
So, but here's the thing that brings up an interesting point.
That's the one thing that concerns me.
I'm not a big creator, and I plan on dabbling in the SRD and the OGL a bit, see what happens. If they were to take one of my contented materials that falls within the guidelines of their SRD and OGL, and then they utilize it for something within their own IP library to create something from it, I'm not the kind of I'm not going to be the kind of person that's going to care that they do that.
Okay, because you don't give a shit, and I don't mean that in a bad way. You don't give a shit.
I just simply don't care.
Let me propose this.
It becomes an amazing portfolio for me, right? It says, hey, they might have made $1 million off it, but they took this 3-page section of a quest I wrote and they included it in one of their video game quest materials somewhere out in their Outlander of IP library. I may never even know they did it.
Yeah, and how about when somebody writes a campaign and like well written with all the acts and everything like that, and then sells it for $10 as a PDF download, whatever. WotC now owns it. They hand it to their movie studio and they make a $300 billion good movie out of it off of your story, and you get bupkis.
I have zero confidence that WotC and Hasbro have any capacity of being successful at all. So
I'm just saying that as a purely hypothetical.
Yeah, I get your hypothetical, but that's like saying somebody who welds ships is an excellent maker of brownies. And the problem that I have with WotC and Hasbro, they're shitty companies. I know they're just shitty companies. They don't have the capacity or the capability.
We're in the chat, Jason.
Oh, good. WotC and Hasbro, you're shitty companies.
You cannot get that close to the mic. You get all staticky.
Because they can't record what I'm saying.
The actors' voices have been changed to protect their identity.
To the nth degree of our 2022 rant, when we did the thing about when we talked about WotC buying D&D Beyond, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Turns out me and Brian were correct. They've done nothing with it. D&D Beyond has gotten worse. The only thing D&D Beyond continues to release is digital dice. The limited library of digital content they released was hardly new. It was all hyperbolic reboots of shit that we all have.
Gary, you haven't published anything, so
it's like I've got a 1985 publication book here of Spelljammer on my shelf. It's not any different than the newer Spelljammer that they released, So it's like if you look at D&D Beyond's credentials since they were purchased by WotC, I mean, it's awful. They haven't done anything. In fact, 50% of the time when we're gaming together, all the players complain about is how horrible D&D Beyond is from a performance issue. And why does it do this every time I click this? And why does it do this? And I've got a couple players, they go to click their dice, their camera freezes. And when they're done rolling their dice on D&D Beyond, their camera comes back. So it's like...
Maybe they need to buy better computers because I've never had that problem.
Well, of course not, because D&D Beyond, you're basically allowing...
Yeah. Even for AI.
Yeah.
None of us actually exist. We're all fucking Max Headrooms now.
And it's like, D&D Beyond are a bunch of lazy programmers. They're so lazy, they'd rather write a program that has to utilize your system for most of the performance. That's lazy programming. Okay.
I'm not arguing that with you.
Life is a simulation. It's so
like
true.
I said, I you and I see eye to eye on the corporate aspect of D&D Beyond. I don't hate the product itself. I actually still like it. Yeah, there's a lot of things that could be improved, and there's a lot of stuff that's missing. But again, for what it does, I still think it does it extremely well.
If there's any Magic the Gathering fans in chat, I'd love to get your opinions on the debacle of their MTG changes, their moneymaker, their shadow wagon of printing money and just scooping it out of trash cans filled with money. Watching what they've done to MTG since Hasbro has bought D&D Beyond, and since Hasbro is now meddling in the WotC formula, my son went on a 1-hour rant when we met up over the holidays, and he was like, Dad, I've never seen people go out of their way to destroy a product like WotC did with MTG, and they know it came with Hasbro. Yeah, totally nothing wrong.
Yeah,
all above board here.
Well, I guess it's going to be, suffice it to say, it's going to be an interesting year seeing how all of this plays out. I mean, this is still all relatively new. I can't believe I'm actually defending WotC. Better fucking record this because this is only going to happen once. But, I suspect that this is still kind of them, setting down their roots and feeling out what is going on. I feel better about it than when the first rumors started. There's still a lot of stuff that still scares me, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of there to fuck up, basically.
Yeah, I feel inspired because now if I have a chat session with Barry, like I feel inspired to get her permission to write up an NPC content with Mira, or like to take her amazing character that she's built, write an amazing 2-3 page section of creative content, and then go out to all my other 49 players and say, hey, I would love to turn your player character into an NPC player content,
Yeah.
And, well, of course, right? But that's okay, because now I feel confident enough to at least try to do it because I better understand what to expect.
Yeah.
And that was the main ask that we had, Brian, way back in 2022.
It was just, you don't even know.
Wanted to know what the procedure was. And I know it. So.
And I told you, because I have a spell template, a set of spell templates that I designed that was all ready to go to production. Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Do you have that handy? Could you share it with the chat? Do you have the ability to do a share screen with that, or is it on another system?
Me?
Your spell stuff that you've built.
No, I can't. It's all print template files and shit like that.
So it's buried. Okay, it's cool.
Yeah.
When I saw some of those, man, I was like, holy shit, this guy's an artist. Like, I was like, fuck yeah, this is cool stuff. I can't do that.
My stuff?
Yeah, that stuff. And they were glossy, they were written well. The creative way they were organized. As a consumer, when that book was done, I would have bought it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I didn't pull the trigger because I just didn't know about the licensing, because I use, like specific spell info and whatnot. So my point being that I tried to get a hold of anybody I could at D&D Beyond before they were bought.
Right.
At just trying to get, somebody that had a link to WotC. I tried getting a hold of WotC, and I tried getting a hold of Hasbro. And I put my dad up to the task because he's like a master at weaseling his way into C-suite level communications to bitch about stuff. He got nowhere. Right. So their support, there are no phone numbers anywhere, and their support system online is one of those endless loops of bullshit that just keeps dumping you back to the same useless fucking page. So it is virtually impossible to get a hold of anybody at either entity, which if you have these questions, I mean, that's why for a year we sat on this and did nothing, because it's like you can't even get the fucking questions answered. So basically, it's like what you publish it and wait until you get slapped with a lawsuit or a cease and desist. To finally get a hold of somebody. So
it's just it's fascinating to me because there's some comments in the chat, and I know Barry's been reading them. It is fascinating that we play this ubiquitous system the way it is and the way it's gone through its changes and iterations. But I'm not so sure you could call me married to it either. Like right now I use only parts of it that make sense to the table having fun with the game and how the narrative play style is playing out, right? So it's going to be, for me, 2023 is a little bit about, maybe I need to start dabbling with different systems. Maybe I need to start, like, for example, Callista, my partner, she bought the RPG Doctor Who game. So I'm thinking of running a couple one-shots with that and, kind of, mucking around with that system a little bit. Having this conversation about, Ivan Norman, they did an amazing series with Geek and Sundry a long time ago called We Are Alive. And it was this great apocalyptic system that I think was using its own system, but I think it borrowed some of it from GURPS. Yeah.
Exactly.
But Dorito is right? There's a Monty Python TTRPG that's being delivered.
No way.
There's as I was up in Portland.
All they need for that game to be successful is one line on the critical hit that says your arms and legs fall off.
No, other than Tana, Tailspire is protected by the fact they already assumed that the licensing was going to be an issue. So, like, they don't use the term Dragonborn; they use the term Dragon Folk. They've already, if you go to Tailspire and look at their arrangements that they've made with Hero Forge, and you look at the way they've done stuff with Tailspire, because for me, Tailspire is a very important online tool for me to use for my professional games. So I'm very resident of whether or not it, puts them at risk, and it really doesn't, because both Hero Forge and Tailspire had already operated under the assumption that licensing was going to be an issue. So they don't call it Mouse Folk, they call it something else, right? They don't call it Dragonborn, they call it Lizard Folk. They don't call it, they always use terms that are from the public domain for the most part. But
yeah, exactly.
Being up in Portland over the holidays, I was at an amazing bookstore that just had shelves upon shelves of all of these TTRPGs, and just like all these different games and systems. And I'm just like, maybe I need to spend 2023 rethinking different systems and different games, and maybe that needs to be my 2023 explore. Like, look at different systems. And
on that note, I'd like to get Sharon's opinion, because as a somewhat still new player, I mean, D&D is obviously the gateway drug that everybody, exactly, that's what I'm getting at. D&D is basically the gateway into role-playing games because everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So,
or they want to know it.
So how do you feel about, like, not having been in it as long? Are you enjoying the system itself? Do you feel like you want to explore other systems and other genres, or
definitely? I mean, the thing is that, like, creativity knows no bounds to me. So, like, as much as they want to put legalese on things, you're always going to find something different elsewhere to get that scratch itch, or scratch itch.
Itch scratched, yeah.
Yes. Will become a bestseller. Yeah, no, I think I like the way that they're approaching this, because they're putting it out in phases, and we're getting reactions from people. Because from what I've heard is that people were kind of like split in between about all this legalese stuff, and it's usually for the heavy hitters that's really gonna make the big difference for them. Otherwise, everyone's still free to play in the sandbox. So, because like, I want to make some magic items, I don't want to.
And you were really, and to that point, Mira, or sorry, see, I fell into grain lands right there. To that point, Bear, we've colluded a lot on a lot of your creations because you wanted to use them in game, and that's an exact example of now players can get involved as creatives, right? And the way you did the staff, the little tchotchkes that people used as that you handed out as gifts to the characters, that was really cool. That was really cool.
What other games what other games or genres are you interested in? What other systems or genres come to mind?
I wanna do some space travel stuff. I think that'd be really fun. And maybe a Western, but definitely space first.
That's right. Did you finish? We forgot about that. Did you finish it? Did you finish it? Did you finish it? Did you finish it?
It's WIP. Listen.
The most important acronym in the professional world.
Yeah, you know what that stands for? Where in the fuck is it? PHUCK.
Yeah, because I'm using natural wood for the staff, so I also don't want to damage the wood too much. So, and then there's like lighting components I need to do. So like it's not really an overnight thing. It's very.
Are you gonna have it ready for fair season? Because we're getting close to fair season.
Are we gonna go?
Heck yeah!
I'll fly out there and go.
For like Bristol or.
I mean, Irwindale is right around the corner. My fair season actually starts in February. We're traveling out to Arizona to go to one of the new SCA war events that's being held in Arizona. So I'm now an official merchant, and I sell a lot of Viking gear and Viking stuff.
That's cool.
And then Callista runs her booth, and I run my booth, and we hang out at the event the whole time. I'm going to dabble with some of the smaller fairs this year. Big Bear is kind of fun because it's small and kind of fun. Oh, that's brutal.
I mean, if it'll
be done in 40 years.
I'm waiting for it to grow, guys.
Ugrin, you get a D6 inspiration for that quick. That was great.
I'll never forget. So me and Gary and a couple of other friends, I think Matt went also. We went to Bristol. This is when we were kids, so this was probably late
Bristol's
80s.
Bristol's a fun fair. I've seen it on YouTube.
It's pretty big. But we went in the 80s, and there was this guy selling big stocky guy. He looked like a dwarf, but taller. And he was selling these swords, and really they were not decorative at all. I still have mine, but it was basically like a slab of steel and a suede wrapped handle. But you could beat the shit out of things with these swords. There was no fucking way they were going to break. But we were like teenagers, and we were talking to him. He was like, "How long does it take to make one of these?" Like, about 300 years. And like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, well, you got to mine the ore and smelt it and wait for it. And we're like, fuck you, dude. Just give me my fucking sword. Shut the fuck up.
So yeah, in Southern California, our Ren Fair is in Escondido. That there's an opening Escondido fair and then a closing Escondido fair. We have a couple Viking fairs that pop up.
You mean
I know, right? We have Big Bear. We Idlewild.
I'll tell you what. I'll make you guys a deal. I will fly out there for what you guys consider to be the best one to go to, and then you guys fly here, and we'll go to Bristol, and then we'll also go to that place that's opening in Wisconsin.
Remind me,
Sharon, what was that castle place or whatever we talked about?
Griffin place.
The Griffin, yeah.
It was
not the Griffin's Nest. It's something
else. Griffin and Gargoyle.
Yes.
Yeah. The one that's
right up.
Right?
What's that? Yeah, that's an hour and a half from me.
Yeah,
and even less from Bristol.
I joined their Discord so I could keep track of what they were doing.
Yeah.
So, but Bristol. So how far are you from Minnesota, Bri?
Minnesota, maybe like 8 hours. No, I'm 8 hours from Bloomington.
Because Callista has family in Minnesota, and we've been contemplating traveling.
That would be kind of a haul for you guys from Minnesota to.
Yeah, but if there's a way I could coordinate, a couple, trips out of a single trip, it might be easier that way. Because she's been dying to get to Minnesota to visit that part of her family. So
awesome. Yeah, we should.
It could. But yeah, I would say the one in May is the best one we have in Southern California, which is the Irwindale, which is technically the grand opening of the fair season.
Okay.
It lasts like a month and a half, I think, or something like that.
That's true also.
Actually, that was one of my New Year's resolutions, was to like do like something D&D like. So like either going to like a fair or going to that that Hobbit place over in Canada.
Yeah. Well, we could go visit Epic Jim and go to that one.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing
I don't know where exactly in Canada, but he lives in Canada, so it's got to be close to this thing that's also in Canada. Canada.
Ooh, 20-sided tavern in Chicago. I love the name of that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Woo!
And for those of you that have ever wanted to drink a nice whiskey, eat a nice bit of brisket, and play a board game or play D&D, they have this new place open in Portland called Mox, M-O-X, and it's a game store, a card game tournament room, a massive board playing room with these amazing tables, and then a fancy restaurant with a fancy bar. It was heaven when I was in there. It was amazing. I'm so jealous of the Northwest. So jealous.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun though. Imagine this show. We could like a live show from these fairs. That would be awesome on location.
And of course, there's the classic that we all need to go to together just to experience it. Evermore Park.
Yes. Oh yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun too.
We could we'll just have everyone in chat all join. It will be like one massive event. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Andrew and I went to this like metal music D&D bar a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, just to shoot the shit. We actually played Crazy Cultists. But yeah, this bar, it's a total dive bar, but it's like total like metal D&D type. It was pretty cool. D-Men Tap, on Belmont. Yeah. Medieval times. Remember Cable Guy?
They're jousting in the middle of the bar.
Yeah, they had a giant. Took me all night to. He actually was like, "Did you see the beholder?" I'm like, "No," and I looked up and it was like a 3-foot beholder on the ceiling. But it's so unassuming, you'd never know it. It's literally like this shitty dive bar. But
I love that.
So I have to show off. I know I did earlier, but since we're almost done tonight.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I wanted to show off the
wait staff that didn't do anything.
So
yeah, that's true.
This has been added to my miniature collection, and I can confidently say it is in one of my campaigns. It is actually in one of my campains. So this will be
cat.
That's dude. What's wrong with your cat? Go to the vet.
That's so cool.
You ever find yourself doing that? I've done this. I'm guilty of this, where I get a miniature and I will actually create an encounter just around the miniature.
Why would there be any other reason to buy miniatures?
I do that all the time. Like, I just finished painting this. Guess what you guys are fighting?
I know, right? Oh my gosh.
Bigature. That's awesome, Torch. Quick, DM that.
Well, especially when you I was having fun with it and holding it up against one of the standard minis I have on the shelf, right? So that's like a little player mini. And I was showing it to a couple people. I held it up comparative to this. They're like, no, that's not right. That's inappropriate. What have you done?
I still want to use my 2.5 foot tall Cthulhu mini that came with Cthulhu Death May Die.
Oh, and you know what?
Next show, I'll bring that up here. Just
another fun thing you could do. I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier, but in 2022,
we're at the show and tell section, everyone.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
Maybe there's a new thing for 2023.
We bought this at an antique shop.
It's a black dragon egg.
Right? And it came on this really cool stand.
Ooh.
Do you know what you have there, Jason?
I don't know, but it looked so cool. I had to buy it and put it on my shelf. It just, aesthetically, it looked awesome. Plus, if I wanted to, I could use it as a terrain piece.
Wouldn't it be funny if there was actually if it was actually a Fabergé egg that somebody just painted purple?
Right? I was just thinking.
Or if you cracked it open and there was a hunk of platinum in there.
There's no paint on the bottom. I'm pretty sure it's just plastic. That's not to say there couldn't be some drug smugglers secret silver key to let them into their their lab, and in the lab there's $12 million just lying around waiting to be found.
Or it's a slip of paper that just says 42 on it.
Yeah.
One of the
two. Oh my God, it's so true. So true. All right, what do you say?
Can we call it?
Yeah. But folks, what we got coming up this year? Well, Barry, why don't you talk a little bit about what we got coming up this year?
Well, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Lawfully Chaotic. Be sure to check in with us as we dive into more future episodes of gods and deities. There's hundreds, so there's definitely going to be a lot of episodes for that. And there's going to be more D&D updates as we have rolled the carpet out tonight. And Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yep, drops this year.
Review more about it. I know
can't wait for
Brian
that.
was super excited about it.
I'm going to see it just so I can rip the shit out of it.
In my time,
back in my time, movies didn't suck shit like this. What else, Sharon?
I'm actually curious how we should probably make a discussion about the heroes of D&D. I think that would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think that I like that idea too, because I've been doing a lot of NPC creations lately, because I find when you have a good narrative player character that you can rely on, a lot of content just kind of comes up naturally with the players interacting with it. So yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah,
cool.
Dritz.
Well, it's your iced tea, you pronounce it Dritz Duorden. And my sword. The Sword Coast.
We'll have to hit up all the old Dragonlance heroes too.
There you go.
Yeah.
I need to read those again before next week.
Yeah. No, I know. I hear you.
All right, should we do rollies?
Yeah.
Definitely do rollies.
All right. I'm using a new die. Well, not new die for the rollies. It's my Funko Pop Beholder D20. Ooh,
I'm already
I got a 14.
What'd you get, Bear?
2.
I got a 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I guess I'll close us out. But first, Sharon, where can we find you this year?
Hey, guys.
Other than in your new apothecary shop.
Yes. It's my new shop that I opened up for the 2023 year.
Which, by the way, I love. That looks awesome.
Thank you. I like it too. The wonders of green screen.
Hey, Gary.
Count to number 1.
Well, guys,
You're
you can always
number
find
1
me here over at Instagram at BarryBot, and you could also catch me here on Thursdays if you haven't already. Where have you been? From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time here on the Critical Role.
What happened? Oh my goodness, she's got it on the brain, folks.
Great. Now we're gonna have to fucking pay royalties to Critical Role on this episode.
Here's
Nice.
your penny, Mr. Mercer.
Great. Wait, I just got an email from Matt. Oh shit, $10,000. Pay up.
It's a Lawfully Chaotic channel. And you can also catch me on Saturdays over at the TTRPG channel. And also we'll be featuring on Lawfully Chaotic's channel as well for the Graying Lands campaign, live from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time, where I play a druid cow star named Mayra. Come check us out. Awesome. And where can we find you, Jason?
And where we dabble in mirror metrics. Hey, you can find me over at TTRPG Academy. The best place to look for me is on my Twitch channel. I've got all my socials there. From now and then, I jump into the shallow and deep ends of the cesspool that are the Twitter spaces. And then my favorite thing to do is I take our actual live game terrain and setups that I use from time to time for the 8 different games that I'm running professionally, as well as the 2 different games I run privately. And then I post those over on Instagram. So you can actually see some of the table steps. Quick, someone play the AI. I do not understand.
Fucking
Error,
robots.
non sequitur.
Awesome.
And, where can we find you, Bri?
You can find me at linktree/rpgandco.com and Instagram. I mean, everything is up there, but best place to reach me is Instagram at same rpgandco.com. What was I going to say? I was going to say something and I forgot.
And we're going to see a lot of new publications coming from RPG and Co.
Absolutely. A lot of stuff coming down the pipeline now that we have free reign to do whatever the fuck we want.
Pretty much.
And if it gets to the point where we owe royalties and we can't do whatever the fuck we want, well, that's a good thing because $750,000 isn't that bad. So, also, I know what I was going to say. I am going to have all of the previous episodes from last season up on RPG and Company and Lawfully Chaotic's YouTube pages. I believe they're on TTRPG Academies also, but all the old episodes will be up by next week. And yes, binge your asses off. And with that, thank you all for joining us in chat. Thank you all of you who are watching this after the fact. And don't forget, TPK, everybody. Tell stories, play games, and be kind.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Beautiful.
Ciao.